Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janie Lee Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I hope you've had a good week. You might have seen me on the TV earlier in the week. I did a thing for BBC Look North, just like one of those kind of early evening news segments. And it was interesting because they were focusing on the news angle, if you like, that lots of younger people are choosing not to drink at all, or they're drinking a lot less than, us oldies. We often read these stats, don't we, that millennials, I think the stat is something like just under half of millennials are choosing not to drink at all. And then a large number of younger people, they cited 18 to 24, are very aware of the issues around alcohol and are choosing to drink less. They're really interesting statistics, and I just did a little piece about obviously my views on that, which you can imagine what I said. But they did a kind of a news report first, where the reporter went out into the community, and it was really interesting. They did their vox pops, as they call it. They interviewed people out in the street. And it was so fascinating. There was a woman who worked in a bar who said that she had seen such a massive change in the rise of alcohol-free drinks, which of course we know makes a huge difference, and people choosing them, perhaps having one alcoholic drink and then choosing to have a zero alcohol option. And then she was saying that as well, that there were lots of younger people not drinking at all, so it was much more normalized. But then they did some clips of they were actually slightly older people, to be fair, but just kind of saying, no, why would I do that if I'm not going to drink? On the rare occasion that I choose not to drink, I would just have a Coke or an orange juice. I would just want a soft drink. I definitely wouldn't want a replacement, in inverted commas. It was a really interesting piece. I found it quite fascinating, really. But my view is, whether you saw the piece or not, my view is absolutely keep the ritual, change the ingredients, because our unconscious mind really is, when we first quit alcohol, we're still seeking that dopamine hit. We're still seeking that little bit of a lift we get from that nice glass with the, pleasurable drink inside, the one that we think is going to make us feel better. I mean, of course, it doesn't. In fact, studies show that the dopamine hits a few seconds before we actually take the drink. I don't know if you've heard me say that before, which I do think is fascinating. It's just the associations. It's just we've kind of primed our brain to think that this is going to do all these amazing things. It's quite incredible that alcohol is allegedly meant to make us feel relaxed and chilled, and yet it's also meant to make us feel energized and confident and sexy and God knows what else. The reality is it's none of those things. Yeah, it numbs you out for a bit, but there are much healthier ways of doing that. But anyways, that's my view, is that if we have something that helps us to keep that little ritual, just keep that moment of pleasure, as it were, because we do seek pleasure when we're adults, and a cup of tea is not going to cut it a lot of the time, and a sugary soft drink definitely isn't. It really is not. So actually having something a grown-up drink, not something full of sugar and crap, a grown-up drink in a nice glass, is going to actually hit that spot, even if just for a short time. And if your thinking is, well, yeah, but I really don't want to have something that looks like beer or something that looks like wine, then don't. The choice of alcohol-free drinks that are not, in inverted commas, replacement drinks is huge. It's absolutely huge now. You don't have to resort to a Coke or a warm orange juice. There are in inverted commas soft drinks that are fabulous. They're proper artisan drinks. I mean, we know about kombucha, and there are loads of great flavors. Great kombucha is actually good for you. There are drinks like Jimber, which is a fabulous fiery ginger. There are wonderful artisan tonics. There's something called Shrubs, a little bit unusual, but really good. And of course, there's all these amazing botanicals that you can mix with great tonic or whatever. So yeah, just in case you haven't heard me say that before, where have you been? Keep the ritual, change the ingredients. That is my view. So I do think that the rise in alcohol-free drinks, the rise of, the availability and the huge choice is one of the big factors in the rise of the sober curious, and that's what I said on that piece on TV, as well as we might have to give credit to younger people that they're just not, they're just brighter than we were. They absolutely see the link between alcohol and unbelievably poor mental health. They can see that. They can recognize that, hold on a minute, I've just been out drinking again and I feel like shit the next day. Like, why, oh, why would you just go do it again the next night? But so many of us did for so many years. And literally my only regret is not doing this sooner. I'm such a big fan of anyone who does this early on. I think you might have heard Danielle Moore on my podcast a few weeks ago. She's only 26 and she did my sober coach training, and she's just rocking it sober. How fantastic is that? It really is just absolutely brilliant to to know your path from such an early age, and really there's just so much more available to you literally in life when you're not poisoning yourself for so many years. So yeah, anyways, that's been my week. And if you are around, if you're in, or if, well, I guess you can listen on BBC Sounds. I'm doing a couple of shows on Three Counties Radio this weekend. So Saturday breakfast show this Saturday, and Bank Holiday Monday from 10 till 2. I'll be on BBC 3CR. So if you're in Beds, Herts and Bucks, or if you want to just pop it on BBC Sounds, it'd be great to have your company. It's really nice being back in the radio saddle, as it were. I haven't done it for, ages. I did some shows on 3CR, but before that, I hadn't done it in a long time. So it's good to be back doing something that I absolutely love to do. Just a reminder before we get into our guest, who, by the way, is Patrick Fox. So I was on Patrick's podcast a few weeks ago, just chatting about my stuff, and I thought I'd return the favor and have Patrick on mine. He's a podcaster. He does a whole lot of stuff around working with men and the challenges that men face in sobriety. So I really hope you'll enjoy that. But just before we get into that, quick reminder of a few things coming up. If you missed the webinar on what does it mean to be a sober coach, then just drop me a message. I'll send you the recording. We're still obviously taking bookings for our next training. It doesn't start till October, but it's a very tiny amount of people do it. So if you're interested, don't wait too long. Give me a call. But the really important thing that I want to tell you about is Wednesday, June the 18th at Club Soda, where I'm going to be hosting a live podcast. I'm so excited. I've got fantastic guests. The Sober Socialites, Becky and Carly, are coming along, share a bit about their story. And Clare Pooley is, of course, my main guest, and I've chatted to Clare before several times. She's always fantastic value. And if you haven't met Clare before, great opportunity to meet Clare. She's so inspirational. It was her book that inspired me to sobriety in the first place, so I'll always be incredibly grateful. But then I've since just absolutely become a huge fan of her novels as well, and we will chat a little bit about the therapeutic effects of writing, even if that's just keeping a journal for yourself. It's bound to come up on the night. So do come if you can. It's a really great opportunity to meet like-minded people, to try some of these amazing alcohol-free drinks that we've been talking about, to literally sit at a bar in the centre of London and actually have a drink. It really feels very grown up and absolutely fantastic, the choice they have there. And it's absolutely fine to come on your own. Please don't feel that you don't have friends, you don't know anyone. I promise you, it's very small, it's very supportive, it's totally non-judgmental. Just feel free to come along. So if you want to grab your tickets, if you go to thesoberclub.com/events, then you'll find a link to it there. It'd be fantastic to see you. And then on the 24th of June, I'm going to be part of the Great British Supper Clubs, hosted by Lussmanns restaurant in Hertfordshire. I'm going to be doing a no booze supper club on the 24th of June. So if you're in near St Albans, it'd be fantastic to see you at that. My favourite restaurant, really is. And then, and that's, I think there's a link to that in events as well. And then, super exciting, you probably know how much I love Cornwall. I'm always banging on about it. I'm convinced I live there in a former life. I absolutely love it there. Don't get back there enough. But thankfully, I'm going to be speaking at the Penzance Literary Festival. This is going to be about my From Wham to Woo book. So there'll be lots of reminiscing. But it will be a really fun evening. I play some great clips. So if you are a fan of the 80s, the 90s, or the years on the Steve Wright show, then come along. I don't think tickets are expensive at all. It's Wednesday, 2nd of July. And that's the Penzance Literary Festival. But again, there's a link if you go to the soberclub.com, click on events. I'd love to see you in the next few months. I really would. Connection is key. I'm joined by sober coach Patrick Fox, and we're going to chat, all things sobriety and men's mental health and well-being and all of that stuff. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, JD, fabulous to be here.
Yeah, great to chat to you. So, I was great to meet you a few weeks ago at the sober dating launch thingy, wasn't it? Which was really nice to bump into you. And I just thought it'd be really good to have a chat because. I mean, I've trained a few guys to be sober coaches, and in fact, on my training very recently, I had 4 new guys, which is brilliant.
Oh,
But I
cool.
still
Yeah.
think it's a space where we probably need a few more guys, because there's a lot of us gals that speak very openly about this stuff, but not quite so much the men. So tell us your story. Let's go back and hear what happened to you first.
Yeah. It's such a great point as well, though, and maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. But, more of those guys do need to speak openly for sure. So let's talk about my journey and how that led to me getting more open with myself, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I, like many UK Brits, probably generalizing a little bit here, but I started drinking when I was 14, 15 years old, like back in the late 90s at school. For me, drinking, looking back, I can see it now, but for me, drinking and ended up taking drugs as well was a way to try and fit in with people at school, and ultimately led to me hanging around with people that I probably wouldn't have done normally.
Mm,
So I started quite young, very much party lifestyle, right? Like living for the weekend, going out most weekends. As I got a little bit older, kind of like later teens, and it, there just didn't seem like any other option back then. To not go out was probably one of the most painful things that I can remember, right? It's like for me, it's that you had to be out on a
mm.
Friday and a Saturday and
Yeah, you want
make
to be
it.
part of a gang, don't you? You want to be part of a group, and friendship's everything when you're that age, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's so when you're younger, it's so important to have so many people around, or you think it's so important to have so
Mm,
many people around you.
yeah.
And funny enough, like we used to go to the Rose and Crown pub
Yeah.
near where we live, right? Like that was our Thursday tradition. Like would be in there most Thursdays, and it wasn't much of a problem when I was younger, apart from I didn't have much drive in life, right? So literally, I was living for the weekend. I didn't care about the work that I was doing. I didn't have very good self-care, arguably. I wasn't really looking after myself. Like literally, all of my money was going on drink and drugs. Or sometimes I spend it on vinyls because I was into DJing when I was a little bit younger. But
Mm,
that was it. Like I just had one thing that I wanted to do with any of the money that I earned at that age. And so led a very hedonistic lifestyle, you can say, like very much in the clubbing scene when I was younger. Well, even now actually, but very different, of course. And so yeah, it was a lot of drinking, a lot of going out, and it was probably towards my later 20s when I started questioning it a little bit. Now, actually, funnily enough, the reason I started questioning it is because I went into coaching. I got into a coach in the old role that I had. They encouraged me to go and do life coaching. So I went and started doing life coaching. And I remember on one of the trainings, one of the instructors was taking a month off alcohol. That absolutely blew my mind. I was like, a month off alcohol? Like that's insane. Like, well, one, why would you even do it? And two, is it even possible?
mm,
And so it was funny, like that. was over 10 years ago. And that was probably the first seed that was sowed in terms of questioning my relationship to alcohol. And then through that kind of coaching journey, I ended up taking a couple of weeks off drinking. And I remember how proud I was of going 2 weeks without drinking. Like, it was a massive, massive deal for me. And then my mate came over from Australia. And then, of course, we ended up just going back to old ways, right? It's what we do. We're very habitual as humans. And then there were times where I was questioning it. So we spoke last week actually, and we were talking about like that intuition, like having a sense and knowing
Mm.
that perhaps this isn't what it is, what I thought it was anymore.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've been thinking about that a lot, and like I could definitely see that in myself, because I would say that I wanted to take a break from alcohol because I wanted to do some sort of fitness program, or I wanted to do it for running, or I wanted to lose weight. So I started to become conscious of the fact that alcohol was perhaps detrimental in some way. When I found out that a pint of beer has got over 200 calories, whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
again, that was shocking to me. I was like, there's no way. It's just liquid. Like, how can it have so many calories in it? I remember using my Fitness Pal when it was very new and putting in there like 8 or 10 pints on like a standard night
Yeah.
out that I'd go.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like 2,000 calories, like my
Yeah.
daily
Your whole
allowance of
daily
calories.
allowance. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was crazy. And so even then, I started looking at alternative options. So I can't remember, I don't think it even exists, but there was this beer that was quite a low calorie one. It was like a light beer. I think they're quite popular in the US, but a light beer. Or I started looking at other ways around it, essentially, right?
Mm.
Like drinking spirits with sodas, right? Because there was less calories in it, or depending on what the soda was, of course. And so there was all these little things that were happening. And then in 2017, or just before 2017, I got accepted to run in the London Marathon. And that was like the perfect opportunity for me to say, right, I'm not drinking,
Mm.
because I could say it. I wasn't going to get any grief for it from anybody. It's fair enough, right? Someone says I'm training for the marathon. You go, oh, yeah, that's fine. Makes sense that you don't want to drink
Yeah,
for
it's
that.
obvious you're going to want to be as healthy as you can, isn't it? And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's funny, isn't it? Because just to interrupt there, it's funny that as you say, there is a sort of a knowing that obviously, duh, you're going to be doing something massively physical like that. Putting poison in your body is not going to help. And yet, funnily enough, the rest of the time we just kind of rock on and think, oh, well, we can do the exercise we do, we can do all the work that we do, and yet we'll still keep caning it every night. There's some real cognitive dissonance goes on, isn't there?
Yeah, that's interesting because it's funny. I had a conversation with someone else earlier, and they're not drinking at the minute. And one of their relatives phoned up their partner and said, "Oh, are they still sober? Are they still on the health kick at the minute?" As if
Yeah.
it's just like this phase that you go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's like crazy. What's really interesting as well is like people think it's magic when you tell them that you don't drink now. They're like, really? I could never do that.
Mm.
Which is awesome. So we're all magicians if you're listening and
Yeah,
you're not
quite,
drinking.
quite.
Definitely. And so I trained for the marathon, but unfortunately I got injured because I overtrained. And my son was also due to be born that year. So he was due to be born like end of April. So that was like late March. I found out I wasn't going to be able to run the marathon, but I was enjoying not drinking. And there was that part of me that knew that I wanted to continue not drinking. So I did. And I told people my son was due to be born. And I wanted to be able to drive to the hospital if my partner went into labor and stuff like that.
Mm.
Again, like no one's going to argue with those kinds of things, but they were the only things that I felt comfortable telling people about why I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
drinking.
It's
Because I'm
crazy
like,
to have to make any kind of excuse for your own
yeah,
health, isn't
exactly.
it? It's utterly
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so these were kind of, big life events. My son was born and I was enjoying not drinking. So I carried on not drinking for a while. I can't even remember if I started using an excuse for it or not at that stage, but it was a couple of months afterward and it was the summer and I was in the pub garden and all of those associations just came back into play and I ended up having a beer. And the next 18 months after that just hit it pretty hard.
Yeah.
Except I wasn't just drinking anymore because the hangovers were horrendous. Like having 7 months off drinking and then going back to it, you
Mm.
really notice a difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your tolerance isn't as much. You feel the effects a hell of a lot more. So hangovers were worse. So I ended up doing a lot more drugs like cocaine because I didn't actually really like the feeling of being drunk. And
Mm,
so every weekend was just kind of this cycle of, say, I'm going to have a few beers, but then I'd have a few beers. And I knew I was going to phone up the local whoever. And it just wasn't very sustainable. And it went on for about 18 months. And then fast forward to the end of December 2018, I hit that month really hard. Like December, notoriously for me, I always call it silly season, right? Because it was just, there's so many reasons to go out drinking, and it's so
mm,
acceptable to go out drinking. You could literally go out every day and it not be a problem. People wouldn't batter an eyelid. And but the whole month, like it was exhausting, to be honest with you. Like so many different things were happening. And then I went out, we got a new puppy on December 20th, something like that. And we went to a relative's on Christmas Day. So I wasn't drinking because I was driving there because we had the new dog and we had to take it and stuff like that. So I had like one or two beers maybe through the day. And I went into Boxing Day with this attitude of being owed something
mm,
that I was
yeah.
like outraged that I wasn't allowed to drink like everyone else was. Yeah, we've had it all before, right?
Mm,
Being that designated driver who'd rather sulk and not enjoy their evening and day because they can't have a drink.
mm,
So Boxing Day, I felt really entitled. Went out, got absolutely smashed. We went to the local football game. We won, so we went out to celebrate. We would have gone out either way. And I was in the pub that night, and of course, because I'd been drinking, I wanted to do drugs. And then I started phoning all these people, asking people in the pub, getting really anxious about it. My phone was dying. Like I was backwards and forwards to the shop buying chargers. The charger didn't work. Uh, Basically, it was a horrific night in terms of just not being present, not really
mm,
enjoying myself, just being so focused on something that I couldn't even get in the end. And just before I went home that night, I had a shot of baby Guinness. And I remember kind of stumbling home down this alleyway, waking up on the sofa the next day, which wasn't unusual, right? I'd woken up on the sofa hungover many, many times before. But that day I woke up and my partner came downstairs and I said to her, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm just so fed up with myself.
mm,
Because in that month of December, my friend had also suggested I start reading This Naked Mind. And I
mm,
started reading that book, and it had a really massive impact on me because I started learning about how alcohol worked, how dopamine worked, really reinforcing stuff about beliefs. So I didn't realize how many beliefs I had about drinking because when you believe something, you think it's true, right? You don't
yeah,
question it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it really just started showing me all of these beliefs that I had about what I thought drinking was doing for me as well.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
woke up and I said I couldn't do this. And I had this idea of stopping for a year because 1 year, no beer. I love that catchphrase. So I said I was going to do that. And within a few months, it was hard. Like, don't get me wrong, it was tough. And there was times I questioned what I was doing, but it became really, really clear that it's just not what I wanted anymore.
Mm,
Like, I just didn't want to be in that life because I knew alcohol was holding me back from so many different things. But the
yeah,
challenge was, Janie, is I mentioned I had low self care. I also had low self esteem, right? I didn't
yeah,
think very
yeah,
highly of myself generally. But as a drinker, I thought I was awesome. I thought I was brilliant. Like I thought I could drink the most. I prided myself on having a reputation on how fast I could drink.
yeah. The ultimate party guy kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
And
mm,
I remember one guy saying, "Oh, Pat never really ever seems to be that drunk when he goes out." And like, I took that and like my ego got all inflated, right? But looking back now, it's just absolutely bonkers that
mm.
I would even be proud of something like that.
Just going back for a minute through that whole period. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you weren't unusual amongst your mates. I guess they were also drinking and some of them doing cocaine and stuff as well, right?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
So what was now you can kind of look back on it. What was the hole you were trying to fill, as it were?
Unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
Right.
unsatisfied. Like I I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. Like I knew I
Mm,
had loads of potential, right? And that wasn't even being big headed. Like I always had
mm,
this idea that I was meant for something, that I was going to do something with my life. But I was just doing the same thing every weekend.
mm,
It wasn't creating change.
yeah.
And it was getting worse. Like I wasn't feeling any better. And
Mm.
I was having to do more of it to even get the same kind of
Well, that's the
buzz.
thing, isn't it? With you know you were you you were dissatisfied, and yet actually what the alcohol would be doing is making the whole situation far worse, because you're gonna
Yeah.
ultimately, it's a depressant. You're gonna have far less energy, far less drive and enthusiasm when you're drinking, which it's just, that's so crazy, isn't it, that we just get ourselves into this trap. Well, it really is a trap, isn't it? It's literally a trap.
Yeah.
um
I remember
yeah.
being out one weekend, just going hard as usual. And then on the Monday, I was at a meeting and I was so anxious and I was misinterpreting things that were being said.
Mm,
And it was just a really, really horrible experience. But even then, like I wasn't attributing it to drinking alcohol.
yeah,
um, which now I can see it clear as day, of course. But yeah,
yeah,
for me, it was,
yeah,
I think it was just I was dissatisfied, like I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. But the trouble is with alcohol is it just steals your motivation.
yeah, yeah. It
When you
steals your
drink, it
joy, doesn't it?
yeah, it
Yeah.
steals motivation, steals joy. Like you're only motivated towards drinking, which of course is really difficult to work towards other things. And I think
Mm.
that's what I inherently knew
Yeah,
and why I had to make that change.
yeah. But it's legal, isn't it? And everyone does it. And as you say, you were doing it from the age of whatever, 14 or whatever. So when it's what you've
Yeah.
always done, there's a huge requirement of change needed. So again, just looking back, what I'm just thinking, of guys who are going through exactly what you went through, like right now. I mean, they probably won't be listening to this unless they've got to that point yet. But if someone's in that situation, what would have helped you? What might have um shaken the tree a little bit, if you see what I mean, long before you were given a copy of This Naked Mind. But what might have shaken the tree? I suppose what I'm getting at is, and I've genuinely no idea what the answer is here. I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, and I'm just thinking, what is it that we need more of? Is it that we need more workplaces, raising the issue of actually, what, you can live your life without alcohol? Is it that we need more marketing, in inverted commas? Is it that we just need loads more voices like yours and mine now, talking about living positively, choosing not to drink? What might have helped you back then?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there, really. I think we need more examples.
Mm.
For
More
me, I was
positive
lucky.
sobriety stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for me, I was lucky. I had a friend who was already questioning alcohol, and he recommended me a book. That recommendation has completely changed the course
Yeah,
of my life,
yeah.
right? And so we need more examples of anyone who is rethinking stopping drinking
Mm.
for us to see. And I do think it has to go back to schools, of course, right? We need to change the education around alcohol. We need to
Yeah, we really do.
people more savvy when it comes to understanding how we're being marketed to, how we're being essentially manipulated to, right, about alcohol.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think more importantly, having someone to look up to and go, I can see myself in that person,
yeah,
or I see
yeah.
myself in that guy.
Yeah.
Like
I
that's
mean, with
how
with
that's how I
guys, I
think.
mean, as you say, and again, I know we're generalizing horribly, but often, if there is sports and fitness that's important in their life, you'd think that the messages would come in loud and clear through that, in a way, wouldn't you? You'd think that when you join whatever team you join, or when you're on some kind of football thing or whatever the hell it is, you think those messages would all be there, that okay, if you want to be fit, if you want to compete, if you want to be at your best, then don't poison yourself. It's kind of obvious, and yet that isn't the case. We, the everything revolves around, okay, you win a match, you go and celebrate with alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow through, does it? None of these things follow through. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. Well, again, look, I think sports is a really good one. Especially, I love football, right? So for me, growing up in the 90s, everything was sponsored by big alcohol, right? Like you
Yeah,
had the Carling Cup, Carlsberg used to sponsor
that's
Liverpool
right.
Football
Yeah,
Club, for example. So like, these are all the things that I was being influenced by at that time, especially like Formula One, right? It was massive on tobacco back then. And so there was, and then celebrating, like
mm,
it's so standard that you celebrate, you get champagne
mm,
sprayed all over you, right?
yeah,
Like that's the glamorization of alcohol. Now, the actual sports stars these days, they're probably not drinking, right? Like, truth be told, but that perception of what it is to celebrate and things like that, that's still very much out there. And maybe
Mm.
that's not true either, because I can think of examples of like Jack Grealish, a football player who was absolutely hammered when
That's
Man
right.
City won the Premier League, right? Like, couldn't even speak, and his teammates were encouraging him to
That's
drink
right.
more,
I did a radio
which is
interview about that
outrageous.
actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so our I want to say our role models play a part, of course, but
Yeah.
it's much bigger than that.
Mm.
So yeah,
I mean, you're
that's
absolutely
funny.
right. It should start in schools. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard me say, I've mentioned it on the podcast several times, but I was really shocked when I went into when my daughter was, I forget, I suppose she would have been 11 or 12, something like that, about 12. And I went into one of those parents things where they had like a talk about drugs and alcohol, although, drugs are alcohol is a drug, but anyways, that's what they called it. And I mean, honestly, looking back now, it was, I mean, unbelievably substandard in every respect. But the one of the questions that they were debating in this, kind of this hall packed with hundreds of parents was, now that they're kind of 12, should we be giving them a little bit of alcohol with Sunday lunch, for example, to
Yeah.
get them used to it, and I couldn't stop myself. I was actually, interestingly enough, still drinking at that point, but I knew it. I cared enough about my kids to be bloody well sure they were not going to. And so I kind of said, but hold on a minute, would you be having that discussion and saying, should we give them just a little bit of heroin to get them used to it? And they're also, oh, ha ha, no, of course not. But it's crazy that we'd be having that discussion. How unbelievably bonkers that we'd be
Yeah.
needing to discuss getting them used to it. How about getting them, to love life as it is without needing to escape, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, not learning to be dependent on alcohol as
Yeah,
your way to
yeah,
enjoy life. It's a little bit chicken and egg, though, isn't it? Because you can do the education in school, but for as long as the parents are
yeah,
still drinking in
yeah,
the home, well, then
yeah, it's true.
they're going to be the role models.
It's true.
That
It's true.
said,
Yeah,
though, if you take it into schools, the kids might say stuff to the parents and
yeah,
maybe help them to reflect. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
could work both ways, but
yeah,
yeah, we definitely need to be having more conversations. Like, I've got a 16-year-old daughter, nearly turning 17,
yeah,
and I have conversations with her about alcohol. She's drank alcohol, she's tried it, and she might do it in the future, right? I can't control that, but what I can control is how I talk to her about it,
yeah,
how I
exactly.
inform her, and I don't do it in like put the fear of God into her, but I just say, there are consequences to this, and I know it seems probably really, what's the word? Anyway, she's seen me do it in the past. I can't think
Yeah,
of what the word is.
exactly.
Yeah, she's seen me do it, but there is a consequence to when you drink alcohol. And luckily, she's really into her sport and rugby. So
Yeah, yeah,
for her, that's the priority, and I think sports is obviously great for that.
it is. Yeah.
Again, though, in rugby culture, because she plays rugby, there's a big drinking culture, like many sports, and
Mm.
with the younger groups, they do drinking games, but they do them with like non-alcoholic soft drinks and stuff like that,
Right.
which seems harmless, but actually you're priming them to then do that with alcohol later on in life as well.
Yeah, true.
You know,
I mean, you're right in terms of this role modeling thing. I had a big one with this because obviously I had to kind of accept that I was not the best role model for all those years, which is, my
yeah,
biggest regret, really. But I think all we can do is be open and honest, and if necessary, you might have to say, well, actually, I regret that. I wish that I hadn't been, acted like that back then. But I didn't know, but now I do know. And actually,
yeah,
I think that kids do that they will be appreciating the role modeling, even though they don't say it. And I don't think it's always very doesn't have to be extremely obvious. I think it's more subtle. It's the fact that over time they get to see that, mum or dad is not reaching for something outside of themselves to be able to feel okay, whether that's when they're pissed off or angry or overworked or upset or happy, interestingly, because it works all those ways, doesn't it? Alcohol
Yeah,
is
it works for
allegedly
every
the,
occasion.
both for celebration and commiseration. And when they can see that you can manage, in inverted commas, emotions without needing alcohol, I think that's really the key thing that we're modeling. I mean, I think it's the best parenting hack ever, actually, because certainly I know I'm a much better parent now. I don't drink, for sure. When I was drinking, I don't know about you, but when I was drinking, I always felt like I was on the back foot with, it's like, oh God, I'm going to get caught out,
Yeah, it's a
because you
horrible
don't quite
feeling
know
as
what you're
well.
saying, do you? You don't quite, and
Yeah,
then they're going to
yeah,
remember something you don't remember. You actually don't remember saying it. It's
yeah.
terrible.
No,
God.
since stopping, I've had conversations with my daughter because I've got a 7-year-old son as well, and the way I parent my son to the way I've parented my daughter is chalk and cheese, right?
Yeah,
Because one of
yeah,
them I was drunk and hungover a
yeah,
lot of the
yeah,
time, and the other one I've pretty much not been drinking.
yeah,
And I think with my daughter, having conversations with her about alcohol, one, just saying, look, if you ever do get drunk and you're in trouble, like I promise you, phone me and
yeah, exactly. No
you're not
judgment.
gonna get in
Yeah,
trouble, right? Because it's so important to have that trust.
yeah,
And
yeah,
also the second thing is that I've made it okay for her not to drink
yeah,
because
exactly.
with the peer pressure, like some of her friends sometimes say she's boring for not drinking, but she's
Yeah,
like, so what? Like, I don't care. You can
yeah,
say whatever you want to say. So I think that's really key.
yeah,
And it's funny because that actually comes back to my waking up on the sofa hungover. One of the other things that really scared me that morning is I saw that I was turning into my dad. Like, my dad was a big drinker, very volatile, let's use
yeah,
that word, like unpredictable. And
yeah,
that had a big impact on me. And I always promised myself I was never going to be that kid. I was never going to take my kids and drag them around the pubs every weekend.
yeah,
Lo and behold, I had been turning into that guy without even realizing it. And that was a big wake up call.
yeah, yeah, totally. So, back on, guys who are sort of in those, I don't know, maybe early stages of just starting to question, just starting to maybe just think, oh, hold on, this isn't serving me or whatever. Um, do you think that there is an issue with guys kind of opening up and talking about this stuff? I mean, I'm sure things are getting better, but is there still a little bit of a thing where guys don't always reach out, maybe quite in the same way women do? We're a bit more open about talking about pretty much everything, aren't we?
Yeah, I do think there's still a big issue. I think especially in older generations, like 30s, 40s plus, etc. I think there's still a hell of a lot of old stereotyping and conditioning about what it means to be a man, what it means to
Yeah,
ask for help, what it means
yeah,
to ask for support, right? The amount of guys I speak to, and I'm the first person they've ever spoken to about how they're actually feeling.
right.
In one sense, I'm really privileged that they've chose me to be able to speak to about this stuff. But in another sense, it's really sad that
Yeah,
that's been
yeah,
the only time that they felt comfortable speaking to someone about this. And I put myself into that bracket as well. Like, it was deeply uncomfortable to get vulnerable and talk about myself. I think when I first started doing coaching and later therapy and things like that. So I think there's a lot gets in the way. What some of the biggest things are men seeing themselves as being weak, right? I
yeah,
hear that all of the time, thinking
yeah,
that they should be able to fix it by themselves, thinking that they shouldn't have to ask for help, thinking that they
yeah,
shouldn't be
yeah.
struggling, thinking there's something wrong with them. Right? There's all of these beliefs that get attached to
Yeah, there's
people's
this
relationship
crazy
with
idea,
alcohol.
isn't there, that that this is one of the things that really incenses me, this whole idea that you're either at rock bottom, and clearly you're one of the unlucky ones, and you're in a skip, drinking
Yeah.
vodka, and you obviously need to go to rehab, poor you. And then everybody else just perfectly okay, happy social drinkers, every now and then can't hold their beer, but basically perfectly good, and nothing in between. And most guys, I'm guessing, they know full well they aren't at rock bottom yet, but they're not okay either. But they don't know anyone else who's not okay. That's not because
Yeah,
they aren't
because no
there,
one's
but
no
nobody
one's talking
talks
about
about it.
it.
Exactly. So it's like
Yeah.
they can't pitch up, and and I, that bit is the same for women. I've said lots of times that I did come out to a GP, but it was disastrous because her attitude was, well, you're clearly not at rock bottom, so you're perfectly fine and carry on, just have an alcohol-free day every now and then, which kept me stuck for another 6 years. And I'm guessing that's the same with guys, because if they, if they were to share this with a GP or with a medical professional, they'll probably get the same kind of answer. Oh, well, you seem to be fine. Just lay off of it every now and then. Be normal, be a normal drinker, in inverted commas. It's such BS. And so,
Yeah.
talking to somebody like you is the first time they get the response that actually, well, yeah, well done you, because yeah, this is a really good thing to look at.
Yeah, and
Rather than,
it's hard. Like it is really hard. I remember the first time I spoke, but and I always congratulate them for that and say, look, this is probably the hardest part of this whole
yeah,
process, right? Is just starting to speak about what's going on.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it is hard, and also the comparisons, right? The comparisons to whatever quote unquote a normal drinker is, right? They're going, oh yeah, but X, Y, Z, they can hold their drink. Holding drink, right? That's another one. Like again, that's where my ego got inflated that I could hold my drink.
yeah.
And
Such
so there's this
nonsense, isn't
idea
it?
that other people can take it and leave it.
Mm.
But the truth is, we haven't got a clue about other people,
No,
no
exactly. You've
matter
got
what your
no
brain's
idea.
telling you. Yeah,
No
no,
idea if
absolutely
they're
no
waking up at
idea.
3 a.m. hating
No, you
themselves.
don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like you are
No.
with your friends for such a small amount of time
Yeah.
that to see them drinking and seeing them stop after a few doesn't mean they're okay. Like it doesn't
No,
mean that they
exactly.
still don't get hungover, that they struggle, that they're arguing with their wife, that they're cheating on their whatever it may be, right? Like there's
Yeah.
still so many other things. So yeah, comparison, thief of joy as well, as they say.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
So for you, when you quit, what was that initial period like in terms of telling your mates, in terms of being accepted or not? Did you find that some of your relationships did change? Because, it can happen, can't it?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge was in my own relationship with my girlfriend, right? Because in our relationship, we'd both been drinkers. And
Mm,
then so for me to kind of step back and go, right, I'm not drinking anymore, which I'd done lots of times before, but this time it was real.
you meant it, yeah.
There was a big identity shift of like me learning how to be a non-drinker and her going out with someone who doesn't drink anymore. So
Mm,
that was, I don't want to say had its challenges, but definitely there was a lot to work through in the beginning.
yeah,
But like everything with this process and life in general, like it normalizes. So the
yeah,
longer you go, the more people become accepting of the
yeah,
change until it
yeah,
just becomes normal.
yeah,
And so I think I was lucky. I didn't get a ton of resistance. Like in the first year, I remember going out. I still did many, many things, right? I would still go to the football. I went to away games. They looked different, of course. I didn't go out for as long. Zero beers were around as well, thankfully. So I was still
yeah.
doing
That's
that.
made a
But
massive difference, hasn't it?
yeah, it was really big. Like, if anything, I overdid them. But do you know what? I don't care. It was a tool. It
Yes,
helped me. It was still
exactly.
better than drinking alcohol. But for me, I remember one of my mates asking me in the pub, he's like, well, so you're not going to drink again? Going back to like the magician, right? Like people think it's magic that you're
Mm,
able to not
mm.
drink. Like they just can't comprehend it. Like you're some sort of wizard or whatever. And I just remember saying, like, no, I'm just sick of feeling like shit.
Mm,
Like I don't like feeling like this anymore.
yeah,
And that's pretty much the end of the conversation, right? Because
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
being honest, you're not just being honest with them, you're being honest with yourself. Like you're not coming up with a million different stories like I used to in the past.
Yeah, exactly. It is true. I
Yeah.
mean, when sometimes if you just say to somebody, I feel so much less anxious. I mean, what friend would kind of come back and go, oh, well, I hope you'll be drinking this weekend because I prefer you anxious. I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? I mean, of course, the reality is we then shine a light on other people's behavior, don't we, when we're not drinking? But that's kind of their problem. It's not our problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you stop drinking, you get a lot more time back. And so for
Yeah.
me, like those first few months were tough. I'm not going to lie, because the almost 20 years of drink and drug use, right? My brain had quite a battering. It had high tolerance for dopamine as well,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like so
course. Yeah.
wanting to feel that kind of release a lot of the time. So obviously I ate way too much sugar and
Right.
binged
I was
on
just going to
stuff.
say, what did you turn to? It was sugar,
Yeah, I
was it?
binged a lot of sugar. but something that did help me, and this kind of brings me back to coaching, is I'd already certified as a coach like 5 years before. But because of my self-esteem, low self-confidence, going out all the time, I just didn't think I could do it. So
Mm,
it was in like February, and towards the end of February, that first couple of months. And I thought, I really want to go back to coaching. Like, I think I was doing some journaling. I was like, I want to do this. I don't want to regret it. So all of a sudden, I now had a focus. I had a purpose. Like, I really started investing my time in learning more about coaching again, learning about how to run a business, doing it properly, let's say. And so a
mm,
lot of my energy that I was starting to reclaim back, I was channeling into something else, which was
yeah,
really, really key. And something I
yeah,
always say to anyone when they're wanting to stop drinking, it's like, yes, you're stopping drinking, but it's like, what else can you be working towards? Because
exactly.
they
What
can
can you add
complement each
in?
other. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it, how people's worlds can open up, when they quit alcohol and start to think about that purposeful life that might be there for them, whatever it is. Yeah, totally. And what about now then? Do you think, for younger guys, do you think it's changing? We hear that millennials don't drink as much. We hear that younger people, I don't think they drink certainly not the way my generation used to drink. Um, it's just not the same. They're more aware of their mental health and well-being. I think at least they are a little bit aware of the link, so it seems. But what's your experience of guys, particularly younger guys? Is there still as big a problem as there was for you?
No, I don't know that it's a bigger problem, perhaps. I think we all become victims of our time in a sense of whatever is happening within those decades of our lives,
Mm,
right? Like,
mm.
so for me, like 90s, noughties, like it was really about binge culture a lot
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
time, and alcohol. Whereas now, I don't think that it's. I think the landscape shifted in a sense that it's not so much about alcohol, but it's moved on to different things, right? Like,
yeah.
it's vaping, it's
True.
mobile
Yeah,
phones. And so it's
yeah,
just found a different outlet, perhaps. So I don't think alcohol's as much as a problem. Although I still work with guys in their 20s, and I think it's absolutely incredible, like to be that young and to
yeah. And
be
be
reaching
sorting it
out.
out. I know it's great,
Yeah,
isn't
like
it? I know.
that's phenomenal, right? Like,
Yeah,
because it took
yeah,
me a long time to figure
yeah.
shit out.
Yeah, I'm
And so
always really
yeah,
impressed when somebody young comes and work. I had a woman on the sober coach training. She was like 28. It's like, oh wow, that is unbelievable. That's just
yeah, it's
amazing. That
amazing.
is really what we need, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And so yeah, hopefully that's a sign of the vernacular changing and people
yeah,
becoming more self-conscious, more aware. Like, it's undoubtable that people are definitely becoming more health conscious, and I think the whole narrative around alcohol is slowly changing.
yeah, yeah. And definitely, as we touched on, the rise of alcohol-free drinks has made a big difference. And obviously some of the marketing has shifted because of that, so you get to see the Budweiser or the Guinness Zero on the big ads, or the James Bond this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
It's in the psyche now, at least, whereas it didn't used to be. So I think that's probably quite helpful for guys, the fact that you can rock up to Dublin Airport and there's a Guinness Zero
Yeah,
bar or
Guinness
whatever.
Zero sells out most often when I
Yeah,
go to places.
yeah,
One thing that did come up, Jane, as you were sharing that, is my daughter's a student, right? She goes to college.
yeah,
And we were in the car the other day, and she was really excited because in this app she's got for being a student, you get all these discounts, and she
yeah,
gets like a free sausage roll at Greg's,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
And then she told me that Brewdog
Yeah,
offer 50% off to all students. Now,
right,
my daughter's 16, nearly 17, right? That's already available to her on a mobile phone as a discount. I was a bit
right.
pissed off about that. I was like, do you know what I
For a
mean? Like,
moment, I thought you were going to say that Brewdog were offering just their alcohol free, and then I was going to say, well, that's
no, no,
fantastic.
this is for
Well,
their
that's
actual
really,
alcohol.
well, that's really
And I thought that
annoying.
was really
That's
naughty.
crazy. Yeah, that
Yeah, I
is
think
crazy.
that's what are you teaching
Yeah, what's the
students
messaging?
at that
Yeah,
age? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Mm,
Exactly.
that's interesting. Yeah. So what are your top tips then, for any guys listening who are thinking, oh God, I've never really never really shared anything like that before, but I know this is not serving me. What would be the top tips?
Yeah. you're not going to die first and foremost,
Mm,
right? Like the world's not going to stop. Not everyone's not going to think that you're weak or pathetic or whatever, right? That again, that is another one of the fears that a lot of guys have is they don't want people to think about them as being an alcoholic or to think
mm,
about them as
mm,
having a problem. But
mm,
the fact is, if alcohol's causing a problem, it's a problem, right? However,
mm.
other people perceive it is none of your business.
Yeah.
And so I think, going back to what we are saying about comparison, is like, and I know it's hard because our brains are primed for survival, they're primed for connection, to be part of packs and tribes. But honestly, people care far less about what's going on in your life than you think they do,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you're wanting to make this choice, this decision, is just think about yourself,
Yeah,
think about
exactly.
your future, think about your families, your wives, husbands, whoever it may be, right? Like start thinking beyond the here and now.
Mm,
Because in life, it all goes through seasons, through cycles, right? Like we don't have the same friends throughout our entire lives. Like we go in waves,
mm,
right? And I think
mm.
that's important to remember. But in the moment, our brain gets caught up in the here and now. So I
Yeah.
think I this is what I would offer: the three P's, right? Planning, practice, patience.
Mm.
You've been drinking probably most of your adult life, right? You've been planning to drink, planning to recover, like
Yeah,
everything else,
exactly. All
you
the
know?
time.
And so you got to start planning for not drinking
Yeah.
and thinking
Yeah.
about what that's going to look like. And then you got to go out and practice or be patient. Sorry, be patient with yourself. Like you're changing habits of a lifetime, right? You're changing things that your brain's hardwired to believe that are important, but actually we know they're not. And then it's, oh yeah, having the patience with yourself to get through that.
Mm.
So yeah, planning, practice, patience. I think they're my three biggest tips. And then like speak to someone, speak to anyone, right? If you have to use a coach or a therapist or a counselor, speak to them because that might get the ball rolling. That might give you the confidence to then speak to other people. One of the exercises I take all my guys through, excuse me, is creating a sober toolkit.
Mm.
And on that sober toolkit, I say, who are the people in your life that you can speak to? Now, there may be different people for different things that you want to talk about, and that's okay. But you got to start identifying who's around you that you know that you can talk to,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're not going to speak to your partner about your alcohol,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But who would you speak to, or who can you speak to? Because
Mm.
there's so many different things out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I run the sober club, and I always say to people, actually, don't share this with your partner, or at least don't share too much about it, because they've not been there, done it, got the t-shirt. Come on the sober club and share what's going on, and we'll cheerlead you. Whereas, the problem is if you just tell your partner, however supportive they may seem, ultimately they often end up going, oh, well, you've done really well, you can have one now. They don't mean any
Yeah,
harm, but that's how it kind
yeah.
of ends up. So yeah, you're
It's so
right,
bizarre,
like
isn't it? It's
community
like
is important.
absolutely, it's 100% important. And alcohol is not the reward for not drinking alcohol.
Mm,
You know,
exactly.
I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, totally. Brilliant. Well, it's great to chat to you, Patrick. Do you want to give us your website and where people can find you? And yeah, and I hope we can do something together at some point. That'd be good fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
fantastic.
yeah, just remind us where we can find you.
Sure thing. So you can find my website, which is patrickjfox.com. You can find me on Instagram at the Alcohol Rethink Project, or you can check out my podcast, the Alcohol Rethink Podcast, as well.
Cool. Brilliant. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Jenny. Really great conversation.
Cheers. Thank you, Patrick. And I hope we get to do something together. It'd be great to do some kind of event in the future. Look forward to that. Just a reminder, I kind of say this most weeks, really, but I remember how I felt in the early weeks when all I had to keep me going was, well, I had a bit of a hotline to Clare Pooley. I was very grateful for that. And then podcasts. I was listening to podcasts. I was reading a bit of Quitlet, and it's everything that kept me going. But I so wish I'd had more. I so wish I'd been able to ask some questions and get some inspiration from people ahead of me, maybe even give back to people beneath me, in inverted commas, people who are earlier than me at a different stage, who were, I'd been through what they were going through. And that's why I run the Sober Club. That's why I started it. It's completely non-judgmental. It's a well-being platform. Yes, it is very much focused on living holistically. So if you join us in the Sober Club, at some point you'll end up, having someone try and inspire you to eat healthily and ditch the chemicals and focus on mindset and meditation and all of that stuff. Of course, in your own time, you do the bits you want to do, but it's all there within the Sober Club. So it's really about the what's next. Of course, it's about everything being underpinned by sobriety, but we talk about far more than just, in inverted commas, not drinking. So, the Sober Club is for you if you're day one, if you're thinking about quitting alcohol, or if you've been sober for 10 years, because we become cheerleaders for each other. It's such a supportive community. And there's so much amazing content in there. There really is. Sometimes I forget myself how much great content there is, because I'm lucky enough to have great experts who I've worked with over the years, and they've contributed brilliant content to our archive, if you like. So there's exclusive videos with William Porter in the archive. We've got some fantastic stuff with Dale Pinnock, the medicinal chef. We've got some meditations. Glenn Harold has done a great meditation for us. Alina Frank, I think, is in there with a meditation. There's John Siddiqui talking meditation. There's EFT tapping. We've got an amazing movement session with Yakov Darling Khan, a shaman. I mean, there's just everything in there. This is, so many things you can dip into for a really, really low monthly cost. It's, it's less than a glass of wine a week, really. So check it out. Join us if you'd like to. It's thesoberclub.com. And of course, whether you're a member or not, it'd be great to see you at one of our events. Wednesday, 18th of June with Clare Pooley in London, 24th of June at Lussmanns in Hertfordshire, or I'm doing the Penzance Literary Fest, but that's with my other hat on, the memoir. So anyways, thesoberclub.com is the place to go. And if you're doing this, even if you don't want to join us in the Sober Club, if that's not your thing, or if you're already part of a group, just tell someone you're doing this. Reach out and tell someone. You can absolutely message me. You can find me on social media at Janie Lee Grace. Just find me there, message me, telling me you're doing this, and I'll hold the vision for you. I really will. You got to tell someone, because otherwise it's just you and the wine witch, and I think you'll find the wine witch will win in that instance. You need someone who just says, okay, I've got you. It'll be all right. It's the best thing you're ever going to do. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.